offspring of incest, what's your story and how is your life? I work with 2 children who were born because of incest. The boy is microcephalic, small head, cerebral palsy, severe ADHD, and developmental delay. He's almost a teenager but is as functional as a 6-year-old and is on a toddler education level. He will probably need care his whole life. His parents were uncle-niece, but his mom was delayed as well. The girl was born from a brother and sister. They have 4 kids total, and she is the only one with issues. I swear she has Marfan syndrome. Her joints are incredibly loose, and she has very long fingers and toes. Her brain isn't able to process light properly, so she's legally blind. She's also severely autistic, which is probably unrelated to her parents being siblings, but it actually benefits her because she's incredibly smart. She's 10 now and is learning to communicate well and is excelling in school these days. She's actually starting going to regular school now in a special class because she's blind, but we have hopes that she will be able to go to the normal classes in a few years. She's still not potty trained, but that's expected when you have her level of autism and being blind. The worst thing I've ever seen as a pediatric CNA isn't the children from incest though. It's the children from parents who drank or did drugs while pregnant. Such beautiful children who would have been perfectly fine if their mothers hadn't put poison in their bodies. I am not an offspring, but was a teaching assistant at a private school for children that were either the public school system kicked out or could not handle. I'll never forget this girl. Her grandpa was her father. She was 19 or 20 and had to wear diapers all of the time. She suffered from severe autism and was the absolute sweetest girl. This was a couple of years ago, but if I remember correctly, she was doing schoolwork at about a 2nd to 3rd grade level. The last day of school, her and almost all of the kids were so sad and did not want to leave for summer, as we were pretty much the only steady-eyed constant figures they had. I actually ended up seeing her while I was walking home from work about a year after the school closed. She still remembered my name and gave me a big hug. I'll never forget it. My brother is my father. It's fucked up. My mother groomed him from a young age to be her perfect lover, and they had me when he was 17 and she was 35. I grew up thinking he was my brother and that my dad had left the family, but I found out the truth when I walked in on my brother and mother having sex when I turned 14. I was absolutely horrified and I confronted them and they told me the truth. I felt betrayed and disgusted, so that night I took my belongings and left home. Haven't spoken to them since. They were the only family I had since my mother also left her family and never spoke to them again at a young age. I'm 24 now. My sister-in-law is a French teacher in an area of Ontario that recently received a large influx of Muslim families. In Ontario, students learn French in elementary school. My sister-in-law was teaching her class elementary school French for aunt, uncle, cousin, etc., and about half the class put up their hands, all recent immigrants. They wanted to know what word to use when your one parent is also the cousin of your other parent. They don't teach them those words anymore. It's actually wonderful. My father and mother are father-daughter, but they are married to other people. My only genetic disorder is a rare case of synesthesia. I can see sound and color. It's only annoying in the dark when I'm trying to sleep because I see colors around me where the sound is coming from. I can even see my cat in complete darkness. I'm thinking about just adopting a child for fear of passing on my disorder. My parents are first cousins. I only got some hormonal problems, but it's not too serious. It's really embarrassing. The younger ones in my family don't know it, and neither do any of my friends. It would be horrible if they knew. A girl in my school once joked about my parents being cousins because I'm Middle Eastern, and I nearly got a heart attack, but I just laughed it off since I knew it was just a joke. I have some acquaintances, 2 Indian sisters, adopted by an American family when they were babies. Apparently, they were the product of their uncle raping their mother. These girls grew up to be gorgeous geniuses, so it worked out okay for them. I was adopted when I was 2. I am extremely close to my parents. They never kept it a secret that I was adopted. It really was no big deal until I got into those angsty teenage years and felt like I wanted to find my real parents. When I was 12, I found a small safe in my parents' closet and tried to find out anything I could. I found some information such as my original last name, but that was about it. Fast forward to about 6 years ago. I developed a bunch of pretty serious illnesses and was curious to see if anything was due to my genetic makeup. I met with a social worker from the state that I live in, and he facilitated getting some info for me. He offered me the opportunity to meet my biomother. I declined. I received a packet with my medical information. It turns out that my birth mother claims that her brother is my bio-dad. Every woman in my biomom's family, grandmother, aunts, etc., had significant mental health issues, and all of them had their bio children taken away due to serious neglect and alcoholism. So I don't drink. That kind of messed me up for a while, and I felt a tremendous amount of shame. I asked my mom if she knew that I was potentially a product of brother-sister incest, and she said that they found out during the adoption phase. However, I was also told to take the information with a grain of salt, since my birth mother apparently had a long history of mental illness. I don't think I will ever know for sure, but I try really hard not to think about it too much, and focus on my great parents who love me endlessly and gave me a truly terrific life. I still struggle with the possibility. It makes me feel kind of dirty. The only people that know are my parents and my husband. I secretly hope that my bio mom was making it up due to her illness. I have 2 siblings-in-law, adopted, obviously, who are the product of incest. Both have mental deficiencies. One is in legal trouble relating to child porn. The other has Prader-Willi syndrome, meaning they will eat anything in a huge amount due to never ever feeling full. Neither will ever live completely independently. My old neighbor was the product of a father raping his daughter. She had some cognitive impairment that seemed like early onset dementia but was very slow to progress. Diabetes and tons of mental health issues. Hoarding, schizophrenia, agoraphobia, just about everything imaginable. If it was a thing back then, she would have also been on the autism spectrum. She had 2 children herself, non-incest, that were profoundly mentally ill and also somewhat intellectually disabled. The son was a horribly abusive paranoid schizophrenic, and the daughter was a hoarder. They were all living together off of disability. Police raided their home and found they were living in filth with the dead, rotting bodies of their pets everywhere, and the entire building was condemned by the health department. The son and daughter, adults in their 50s, wandered off never to be found. Their mother became homeless and ended up in a state-run nursing home. We were her only visitors. In my mother's family, there was a lot of sexual abuse, especially from a stepfather. My mother is the oldest of 7 siblings. She has 2 full siblings, and the other siblings are clearly of another father. Trust me, they don't need a DNA test. For years, there was a question of who fathered who, but now that everyone's an adult, their character, their traits, it's just too obvious who fathered who. Because of how much sexual abuse went on, a lot of kids were born from those half-siblings. Considering the number of problems that range from physical abnormalities to mental disorders, I'm thoroughly convinced that at least some of these kids are a product of incest, and not all a matter of she whored around at 15, like they would lead you to believe. It isn't that far-fetched considering he did, in fact, rape some of them. One of these uncle cousins was feral. His mom was young, didn't know what she was doing with the baby, and left him in the crib all the time. He didn't get enough stimulation, no one talked to him, so he became feral. It's a sick situation. He's in his 40s now and can hardly carry on a conversation. He is a good guy but tends to fall for a lot of conspiracies and other nonsense. He's never had a career. He slurs his speech and can barely understand basic concepts. Out of everyone in the family, he is probably the best living example of how that family treats human life. Like garbage, basically. No one stepped in and fixed the problem. Thankfully, my mother did not, to my knowledge, get abused by that man. Her little sister did, unfortunately, and my grandmother has since divorced him. These aren't rednecks either. They live in New York in a suburban community. These aren't ghetto thugs. Needless to say, I stay far away from these people. There was a woman in my pregnancy and infant loss group that had a really tragic case of accidental incest. We live in a town where there's a military base and soldiers from Great Britain often come and train there. Well, this woman met a soldier at the club one night, and they hit it off and started seeing each other. They discovered they both had family from a little obscure town in England. She was born there, and her mother brought her to Canada when the mom split up with the dad. She grows up not ever having contact with her father as a result. Anyhow, this girl ends up pregnant by this soldier and doesn't get proper prenatal care other than her anatomy scan at 18 weeks. When the baby was born, he had severe deformities and was lacking a bunch of his bones in his limbs. At Children's Hospital, they do a genetic workup on the parents and baby, and within a couple of days, the baby dies. The genetic counselor ended up contacting the lady and telling her she needed to come in for an appointment. She does, and it turns out that her and the soldier are half-siblings, and they both had a specific gene mutation that had been passed on to their baby, resulting in whatever disease caused him to not develop parts of his skeleton. In the course of a few days, she lost her baby, found out her boyfriend was actually her brother, and went off the deep end and started using all kinds of drugs. Listening to her story made me feel uncomfortable and physically sick. It was awful. I felt sorry for her, but also felt disgusted even though I knew it wasn't really her fault. My parents are first cousins, and I really have nothing really wrong with me at the moment. But I am only 16, so who knows? I understand that incest limits the gene pool and whatever, but I don't really think incest is a bad thing. My parents' marriage was arranged when they were kids, and mine is almost confirmed to be with my first cousin as well. My grandparents are first cousins. One of my aunts was born with some jaw malformation, mom got fucked up knees and a hole in her heart. Everyone has mental problems and needs medication. It is highly unlikely that most of this comes from your grandparents being first cousins, unless it goes back farther than just them, or your grandparents both had recessive genes for some sort of genetic defect. Mental illness just runs in families, and two unrelated people with histories of mental health issues would likely pass that on. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss new and the coolest stories from all over Reddit in the future. See you next time. See you next